Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to another Opposition View show with me, where we're looking ahead to our next game. We're here at Goodison against Spurs. We're going to be getting some insight today into all things Tottenham, and we're going to be getting a courtesy of Ben Daniel, who's joined us from the Tottenham fan channel, We Are Tottenham TV. He's going to tell us what he's made of Tottenham recently and what we can possibly expect from Spurs on Sunday. So, how are you doing, Ben?
I mean, personally, I'm doing great. But if you want to talk about football, I think both of us are kind of in the same boat. It's a real six-pointer this weekend. Relegation
I,
battle.
I thought you were going to say a real sickener, and it has been a real sickener this season, hasn't it?
No, it
So,
has. It has. Yeah.
so without further ado, we always do start with the season so far. Your stats read 3 wins, 3 draws, 4 losses, 12 points out of 10 games. You're currently 11th, and let's not mince our words. You must be pretty disappointed with this, given how much you've achieved in recent years.
Yeah. To tell you the truth, though, I have. This has been coming for a while. This has been coming
Really?
for a while. When you look at the Spurs squad this season, there's a lot of players that don't want to be there. There's a lot of players that Poch. Um, the fan base is getting a bit split at the moment. Well, I think the majority is Poch in at the moment, but there are still a few coming out saying Poch out, which is absolutely madness to me because he's the best manager we've had since the '80s, since Keith Birkinshaw probably. And if he was to leave Spurs, I think the whole thing really does fall apart.
That's
Um,
a very good point, really, because it was one of the questions. It was actually the next question I was going to ask you. Is Everton, of course, we're no strangers to the sack race, but
yeah,
Spurs have been quite sustainable over the last 5 years with Pochettino. But could you see him leaving Spurs in the near future? Do you reckon he'll still be here come the end of the season?
I think he will be here come the end of the season. The only way he leaves Tottenham is if he walks because he's not getting sacked. He signed a 5-year deal last year and quite a big one at that. So to sack him would cost Daniel Levy and Tottenham a lot of money, and we all know what Daniel Levy and
Daniel Levy
spending
does
money
not
is
like
like.
spending large sums of cash, does he?
Exactly. And and Daniel Levy knows on a budget, and that's the main thing for him. If I was Pochettino, to tell you the truth, I would have walked a year ago.
Really, yeah. It was one of those. There was a lot of clamour around the time when Kyle Walker left, I remember, and then Danny Rose was possibly going to United, and I remember a lot of people saying, when's the ball going to back him? And
Yeah,
I understand that you've moved to a new stadium and stuff, and maybe there's that sort of side of things cost him. You know what your neighbours were like with the Emirates; they were very tight for a good 5 or 6 years
yeah.
after moving there. So it's understandable, but it comes to a point when you're a top manager, he probably does want a bit more money to try and take us to the next level. But having said all that, you did get to a Champions League final last year. So what's gone so wrong since? Obviously, it's quite a big drop to go from a Champions League final to bottom half of the league in 6 months.
Tell you the Champions League final did mask a lot of our problems last season. We didn't have a great season in the league last season, and Arsenal probably should have pipped us to that fourth spot. They fell apart at the back end of last season. We fell apart at the back. Well, fell apart the whole of last season. The beginning of the season, we were getting past games 1-0 in the last minute, but not playing well. We haven't played consistently well now for about over a year and a half, which is a long time. And, you've got players like Christian Eriksen, Danny Rose, Jan Vertonghen, Toby Alderweireld. The list goes on who don't want to be there. And you can see it on the pitch at the moment. They don't want to be there. So what I don't get at the moment is why Pochettino keeps persisting with these players.
Out of interest, wasn't even the question I had planned, but you're saying loads of these players don't want to be there. But why don't they want to be there? You've just got to a Champions League final 6 months ago and just moved into a brand new stadium. What have they got against the club where they want to go at this time more than any other? Because surely things have never been better in terms of the setup at Spurs.
I mean, that was probably the case 2 years ago. Things have never been better, but things have just gone stale. And if you don't go forwards, you're going backwards. If you're stagnating in football, you're going backwards. And that's exactly what's happened at Tottenham. Um, Danny Rose came out just after Carl Walker left and started speaking to the Sun about
That's not a
Tottenham.
good
And
sign.
yeah, it's not a good sign, is it? But he was talking about that Spurs need to get some big players through the door. Otherwise, they fear going backwards. And, these players are just going to leave and go and ask for more money and elsewhere. You got Christian Eriksen. who was actually offered 200 grand a week at the back end of last season to stay, but he rejected it because things have just got too stale at Tottenham. And Pochettino has said this at the back end of every season, saying Tottenham need to be brave in the transfer window. They need to think like a big club. They need to act like a big club. We've got this new brand new shiny stadium now. We need to act like a big club that we're perceiving to be, but it's not happening.
I think that's the issue. It seems is that we need to. I think a lot of teams do have to. You do have to freshen things up. Maybe it's not the easiest thing to do when you've got a settled team like that, but maybe sell some big players and bring some new ones in. Maybe, obviously, you did bring a few in this season, like Lo Celso, and to be honest, I can't think of anyone else other than Lo Celso. Who else did you bring in?
Ndombele and Ryan Sessegnon as well.
Oh yeah.
Ryan Sessegnon hasn't played a minute yet. Lo Celso's been like just 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. But Ndombele looks a proper player.
No, he has actually been impressive.
But all you need to do is look at Sir Alex Ferguson at Man United. You know, he never stopped building his team. He never stopped bringing in new players. Now, however good they were, he never stopped bringing in quality players at the end of each season. Whether it be 1 or 2 players, it doesn't matter. You just need to keep things taking over and keep things fresh. And that's what it's all about, really.
Yeah, I think it's a case of, like you say, I think it's just to keep the current players on their toes as well. Maybe just continue to keep standards high, really, because obviously once players think that the squad isn't going to change much, maybe they sort of rest on the laurels.
And that's exactly what's happened with someone like Dele Alli, for example. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, he was an absolute world beater, 20 goals in the Premier League as a 19-year-old or whatever he was. He probably kind of surpassed everyone's expectations, but then it's just kind of been a downward slope, and it's because injuries have not helped him. But I think it's because we haven't seen fresh blood, and he's not getting that kind of competition, which kind of, when you first break into the team, the world is at your feet kind of thing, and you need to prove yourself. But once you don't need to prove yourself anymore, that's when you get a problem.
Well, I think that's the thing with top sides, when they are continually bringing new faces in, you need to continue to prove yourself, and maybe that's why Spurs have stagnated a bit.
Yeah, and I think Liverpool, I know you won't like me saying this, but Liverpool is a great example, because I think in the past 10 years or so, Liverpool had only finished above us once or something like that. And we had probably 2 years ago, we probably had a similar level to Liverpool in terms of squad, in terms of ability.
Yeah.
Liverpool went out there. The manager said to him, I want this player, I want this player, I want this player, the best in each position that is available, really. And that's what Poch was calling out to do for the past 3 years, and it hasn't happened. And you can see, I'm sorry to say this on your channel, but Liverpool are probably the best team in Europe at the moment. And you've got Tottenham, who we are where we are at the moment. And that is because of Daniel Levy. There's no other 2 ways about it.
So are you saying Daniel Levy's been a very key figure in helping Spurs to build the way they did over the last few years and get the new stadium? But are you now suggesting maybe Daniel Levy's holding the club back?
I feel that I commend him. I completely commend him from the job he's done at Tottenham Hotspur. Don't get me wrong. The stadium, the training ground that he's delivered, absolutely second to none. It's probably the best stadium I've ever been in world football.
It is impressive.
Have you been?
I haven't, but I've seen pictures of it.
Yeah.
We have a little graphic when we do these videos. You'll be in the middle of your own little stadium. So
no,
I've seen loads of photos of it. It's very impressive.
It's absolutely brilliant, but it happens under every single manager. No manager gets backed. Clive Allen, old Spurs player and Spurs coach, he was under Harry Redknapp.
Oh yeah.
And he came out very recently in his book and said, this stinks of what happened when I was at Tottenham. Daniel Levy up to his old tricks again. I don't know if you remember, but Harry Redknapp, when he was at Spurs, there was this moment when we flirted with kind of challenging for the title one season. And
was it
in that January, Harry Redknapp, go on.
Yeah, I remember. It was his final season, wasn't it? When he
exactly, when he was going to take the England job.
Yeah, you were third, I think, just behind City and United, and I think you've never even ended up getting top 4 by the end of the season.
Exactly. And Clive told this story about Daniel Levy where Carlos Tevez was available from Man City for 25 million, and Gary Cahill was available from Bolton for 7 million. Yeah. And Harry Redknapp goes, go on, Daniel, go out and get those players for me. And what does he come back with? he comes back with Ryan Nelson on a Bosman and Louis Saha on a Bosman. And that tells you the story of the man, you know what I mean?
In fairness, that Louis Saha selling him to you guys, that sort of saved us at that point because he, like you say, I think that was another thing at that time. That Everton team was very stale, and we sold him, and we brought in we re-signed Pienaar from you guys as part of the deal, I think. So it sort of helped reshape our team, and I think we went the opposite way that season. We were well in the bottom half, and then we had a really good end to the season. It's the key to, like, sometimes you do need to change the squad up, but I understand what you mean. Daniel Levy is quite a wheeler dealer. I mean, I remember Harry Redknapp's infamous interview where he told the interviewer to F off.
Yeah, I'm not a
For
wheeler
calling him
dealer.
a wheeler dealer, yeah.
I'm not a wheeler dealer.
The question is, was it Redknapp who was the wheeler and dealer, or was it Daniel Levy?
I think when he came to Tottenham, Harry Redknapp, he had the reputation of being a wheeler dealer, but I think Daniel Levy stripped him of that very quickly. I don't think Daniel Levy let kind of Harry Redknapp at the purse strings or anything like that. Daniel Levy is the main guy in charge of transfers at Tottenham Hotspur.
It's very interesting that you say that, because everyone goes on about how well run Spurs have been over the past decade, and like you say, it has been a case of you've slowly moved up over that decade. May have been a long time coming, but you can't knock what Daniel Levy's done.
I agree with you. Daniel Levy has done a sensational job. When he came into Tottenham, George Graham was our manager, the man in the long coat. You know, nobody liked George Graham for his Arsenal
What was he doing at Tottenham out of interest? Because
disgrace.
It
was a
Arsenal
disgrace.
Legend,
absolute disgrace. But to be fair, he did win us a trophy. He sacked him straight away and brought in Glenn Hoddle. Like, that was to win over the fans. You can't do anything more than that, can you?
That's right.
I think
yeah.
He came into Tottenham. We were flirting with relegation. He's brought us in, and now we're like Champions League regulars. So, look, Daniel Levy has done a brilliant job doing it his own way. But if he was just to empty those, to loosen those purse strings a bit, we could be up there with Man City and Liverpool right now.
You should be, to be honest, because
exactly.
let's not forget, just over 2 years ago, you were running up to Chelsea in that title race, and you weren't far off there. So do you think things have gone a little bit backwards over the last 2 years?
Definitely. And I think, as I said before, if you stagnate or you're not going forwards, you're going backwards in football. And that's exactly what's happened with Tottenham. Man City and Liverpool have both strengthened massively, and we haven't.
It must be Everton fans know this more than anything about missing big opportunities, but it must be quite sickening for you to have come so close and maybe blown that opportunity.
Of course it is. But I tell you the truth, I don't see light at the end of the tunnel this season. But if Pochettino does stay beyond this season, I can see us getting back up there, because I don't think Pochettino will stay unless there's assurances.
Do you think things will change? Do you think Levy will give him those assurances and keep those promises in the summer?
It remains to be seen, but he's going to have to, because when you look at it, we've got Eriksen, Vertonghen, Alderweireld, and Danny Rose
all running out of contract,
going on a free at the end of the season. Exactly. So people are going to have to come in. We'll be left with one Foyth who can play right back, centre back, and Davinson Sanchez. You need upgrades there. You're gonna. It's just otherwise you're going to be a mid-table side again.
Yeah, it's quite a difficult league, obviously, to keep going in. It's the toughest league in the world, the Premier League, and we know it better than anyone. Look how much money we've spent to try and improve, and it's not really. We've not kicked on at all, really, to be honest. That's the next question I was going to ask you: is what have you made of Everton's ongoing issues from an outsider's perspective?
Well, before this season started, I really liked Marco Silva as a manager. I thought he's done good jobs pretty much everywhere he's gone in the Premier League. I really liked his style of football. I really liked the business that you did this summer as well. It's really shocking, actually, how bad you're actually doing this season. I can't really put my finger on it. Probably you can shed some light on that, because I really have no idea why you're not doing so great this season.
I think we talk about stagnation and maybe being a bit stale, not necessarily with personnel, but Marco Silva's system. I think people have figured it out. Other managers know what to do when they come up against Silva's teams, and sometimes the game's just crying out for you to change the formation, and he won't do it. And it's also a long-running problem at Everton with previous managers who we've sacked as well, who are insistent on playing their favourites, if you like, and maybe not rewarding people, which, like you say, it can sometimes annoy players when the hard work isn't being rewarded. And like I say, players have been kept on the toes at times, but they're not getting rewarded for working hard and training. There's players like Tom Davis, who's a local lad, very well liked by the fans, and he doesn't really get much of a look in, while Morgan Schneiderlin, who's extremely unpopular at Everton, continues to get games. It's quite infuriating for the fans, and I think the fans are hoping that it won't be long before Marco Silva gets his P45. To be honest,
Really?
even though we won in the cup on Tuesday night, but we've got Leicester in the next round, which I can see us going 9-0 like Southampton did if we carry on like this under Silva, because we looked horrific, and we only got through on Tuesday because Watford were even worse than we are.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're going to meet your match on the weekend, I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, no, it's been a difficult season for you guys as well. That's one thing I've always found between both of our sides. They've always been in similar situations at the same time, and
Yeah.
I think I remember whenever we've had a good season, you've had a good season. Whenever we've had a bad season, you guys have usually had a bad season. You've probably suffered as long as we have, to be fair.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think there's similarities with Everton and Spurs. But I don't get Everton because you've got some good players there. I love your left back, Luca Dean. I think he's a brilliant player. I would take him at Spurs all day long. You can have Danny Rose if you want.
It was a very interesting question I was going to ask you later on, was if you could have one Everton player in your team, who would it be? So would that be Luca Dean?
I think it would, considering what we need at the moment, it would be Luca Dean. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
he's a very good player. But like you say, the thing, our team's full of good players. It's just they don't click, and
Mm,
I feel like a lot of it is down to the manager, but also Everton fans are very picky. We're one of the pickiest fan bases. We have to feel a connection with the players and the manager, and if we
yeah,
don't get that, then they can get a bit restless. I think fans want to see players basically bleeding for the club. They want to see them
yeah.
throwing in tackles. They want to see people like leaving everything on the pitch, basically. And if they don't see that, sometimes the fans get quite upset by that. And also, I think that's why these maybe sort of pretty boy managers like Marco Silva, we had Roberto Martinez before that. They don't sort of wash with Everton fans. They want to see more blood and thunder football. Ironically, like what Liverpool are getting at the moment is a bit more aggressive. It's sometimes it feels as if we just pass the ball around the back four for the sake of it, and it can annoy the fans, and that's why home fans get quite restless sometimes.
I asked this question to every single person who wants Poch out. I'm going to ask you the same question. Who would you want to replace him? Like, if he was to leave, like, who's good out there?
Um, if both things happen, I'd go for Poch.
Give over, mate. Give over. Poch ain't leaving.
Well, that's the thing. If the unthinkable happened and he was sacked, it'd be him. But obviously, at the moment, I'm saying throw every penny at Mourinho because he's the only proven winner who's openly come out and said he wants to have another go in the Premier League. So you never know if we could tempt him with a bit of. We'd be throwing enough money at crap players, so we might as well throw it at Mourinho and see if he can get a tune out of this team.
That's the thing with Mourinho, though. It's all bound to go stale in 2, 3 years. So, like, when you're actually thinking about getting Mourinho in, because a few Spurs fans have said to me they want Mourinho at us. And I'm like, what is the point of getting rid of a long-term manager to replace him for a short-term, short-sighted manager who's probably going to get sacked in 2, 3 years?
The only thing is, Mourinho he does get trophies, and given where Spurs are at, he might be the man to deliver the trophy. Because, in fairness, Pochettino still hasn't.
Yeah, I agree
Like
with that.
that's the big difference, I think, is Pochettino's been great at building the side, but he hasn't won anything.
Yeah.
Mourinho will probably come in one season and win you the FA Cup or something.
But then I think you've got to look at it with a long-term sighted. If you keep Pochettino for another 5, 6 years, I think he can make us into one of the elite teams in England. I genuinely believe that. If Daniel Levy helps him, that is. But when you look at Mourinho, he'll come in, yeah, he might win an FA Cup in the first year, but it's all going to go to shit after that. And if you're telling me Mourinho will work under a chairman like Daniel Levy,
That's a
no
very
chance.
good point. Yeah.
No
Well,
chance.
Well, I think that's the issue Everton fans have with Mourinho. If he came in, was we have a director of football, and Mourinho doesn't always cooperate with directors of football very well.
Exactly. And everywhere he's gone, he's had a lot of money to spend. He's not going to have that at Spurs.
We'd probably give him it at Everton, but it still will probably get flushed down the toilet somewhere. We are run absolutely atrociously. Ever since we've been taken over, it's been a case of I think it's the fact that everyone's made such a big deal about us having a billionaire in charge, is that suddenly everyone's trying to rip us off for their bang average players. And
I think that's just the thing of being a Premier League side. Every Premier League side gets completely ripped off by everyone these days.
Yeah, but at least most sides are getting ripped off for relatively decent players. We're getting ripped off for some absolute donkeys at times.
But I think you made good business in the summer. I know it wasn't this summer, but Richarlison's a great player. Moise Keane's got a good reputation about him. So, you made some good signings there.
There are some decent players, and like you say, it may well just be the manager that we need to get these players to click, but it just seems so bleak at the moment because we've been through so many managers and sacked them all, and nothing. We've tried something different every time, and it still hasn't worked. This is one thing I would say. Everton fans often reference Spurs as the type of model we should follow in order to build a side that can compete for the Champions League and things like that. For your experience as a Spurs fan, what sort of things have Spurs done to become successful, which I think Everton maybe have failed to do?
Well, it all happened, when Pochettino first came, we bought well, we bought young, we bought, players like Dele Alli. When we sold Gareth Bale, actually, we bought in 6, 7 players. And out of those players, we got, some players like Hugo Lloris, Christian Eriksen, Eric Lamela. Everyone else were duds apart from them. But we bought young and we bought hungry players that wanted to succeed. They've got a bit stale now, but that was the key to us kind of moving up in the world. We bought players for a low amount that had a high sell-on value.
It's interesting that, because that seems to be what Everton have been doing since the sporting director came in just over a year ago.
Yeah.
Yet it still hasn't clicked. I'm just wondering
it takes a while for these players to click. Because Pochettino, we top 4 or the top 5. And then as it progressed and these players started becoming known to each other and start playing as a team, Pochettino installing his tactics, that's when we started to see the Tottenham that we've seen over the past couple of years.
Could that be the big difference, you think, between how Spurs have kicked on and we haven't? Is that Pochettino's tactics may be well better than Marco Silva's?
Yeah, well, people are actually slating Pochettino's tactics this season, but I think that's more to the personnel. But I think his tactics and his man-to-man coaching is the way and the reason why we've kind of pushed on to where we have. He's made kind of average players look good as well. Like, players like Ben Davis, who I think he's an average player at best, but he's made him look good at times.
Definitely, and I think that's the issue Everton have had for a long time, is the coaching staff isn't up to scratch. Even if we could sign we could sign Champions League level players and we could turn them into horse shit, to be honest with you. I think that's just the way we've been. It's just, I think the coaching staff isn't fit for purpose, but it's one of them. We seem to be sacking coaches and managers left, right and centre, so it's a question of where do we go next.
Take Moyes back.
Everybody's been saying this. Do you know what? I wouldn't even be that bothered if he did come back. I think he'd probably do better than most managers we've had anyway, and he'd probably be a bit more flexible, to be honest, because Silva, Koeman, Martinez were all stuck in their ways kind of managers. They won't change. I think maybe Moyes gets the fans a bit better, but even then, I don't think Moyes would be the right appointment. It's hard to see who the right appointment is, because we've tried everyone already here. Who could possibly get a tune out of these players? Then you start to question, is it the players? Is it just the club as a whole? The club just could be absolute. I think we're just run by donkeys. It's a
difficult one to actually put your finger in it. It's difficult because you don't actually know what's wrong until you fix it. And if you keep chopping and changing, maybe it's not because you've given them enough time? I don't know. It's a very difficult situation that you're in because you don't actually know what the problem is.
That is the that you've hit the nail on the head there. Fans don't know what the problem is, and then you've got fans fighting amongst themselves
Yeah,
on
that's the
social
worst.
media.
That's the worst.
Fans are saying it's Silva's fault. Someone's saying it's the players' fault. Someone's saying the owner's done something wrong. Someone's saying we need the new stadium before we can even think of being successful and all kinds. But
What's the
it's
story with your new stadium?
well, we're going for the planning permission in December, so not far away now. And that was another thing I was going to ask you. Of course, you guys moved into the new stadium 6 months ago. What's your thoughts on the new ground, and maybe what sort of tips could Everton take from them?
I think it's absolutely amazing new ground. I think when you walk into the stadium and you're on the concourse, it doesn't seem like you're in a football ground. It seems like you're in a nightclub somewhere. You know, there's
That's
five,
sound. That
six,
sounds good.
seven different beers, any kind of food you want. It's absolutely amazing. Fans mingling from about 3-4 hours before kickoff till about 3 hours after the game. You know,
That's
drinks are
what you want,
flowing.
isn't it? That
Yeah,
sounds really good.
drinks are flowing the whole time, and not even that, the pubs around the ground are also packed. So you know, it's absolutely packed around Spurs these days. But would I exchange that to still be back at White Hart Lane and have that last season at White Hart Lane that we had? Probably, yeah, I would.
Yeah, your
Because
last full season at the Lane was probably your best, wasn't it?
we were unbeaten that season. That was the season where we finished second to Chelsea, probably our best season under Pochettino. So is the new stadium, the be all and end all? I think it's more of a money making machine for Danny, that he's not going to kind of put money into the team and invest in the team. But having said that, I love going in. I love going there week in, week out. I just love it. It's a great place to be.
It's interesting because a lot of fans are very in two minds because obviously Goodison's got like a sort of old charm about it, but the thing is, it's I think it's what we need if we're going to be a self-sustaining club because we can't continue to run ourselves the way we are right now. It's just absolutely absurd the amount of money we flush down the toilet, like I say.
And Goodison actually reminds me a bit of White Hart Lane as well. I love going to Goodison because of that feel it has to it. And I feel that these stadiums are all going to be breeded out the game, and it's really a shame because you know these are the stadiums where you get that proper old school football feel, and they're all going to
Well,
be gone out of the game soon.
I think that's the issue, though. I think I was saying Everton fans like that blood and thunder type of football, but
Yeah,
sometimes I feel that the type of football we played when we last won a cup in the 90s was very blood and thunder. We were called the Dogs of War, and the fans loved that. And I don't think we could have that anymore because football's become too gentrified. I think it's referees wouldn't allow our teams to do
yeah.
what those lads did in the 90s. Like half of that, we would have ended up in red cards these days. And also, the stadium is the same. I think you've just got to move with the times.
Yeah, and it's not even that. Fan bases have changed as well. So, you know, you don't have the fans completely on top of the team, supporting the team, win, lose, or draw till the 90th minute. That doesn't happen anymore, you know? If a team goes 1-0 down, you don't hear a peep from the fans. And that's what really gets me because I remember going to football under Martin Yole, and this wasn't even that long ago. And this was like 2005, 2006. And I remember going to games, you know, Southend at home in the Carling Cup or any random team at home, it doesn't matter. The atmosphere was on point every single game. And no matter who we were playing, we used to sing up for the lads for 90 minutes. But fans have changed. It doesn't happen anymore. It's too expensive to go to football. Real fans are being priced out the game. And you're just getting kind of middle class fans that don't want to sing and just want to sit there with their popcorn and watch a theatre show. You know what I mean?
It is, and that does irritate me sometimes. Is the whole the kind of package footballs become, if you like, with the broadcasters as well, more than anything, trying to write football as a Hollywood script rather than actually just focusing on it as a sport, if you like.
Yeah, exactly. I 100% agree. And I tell you what, I don't enjoy going to football as much as I used to, just because of the reason I fell in love with football is because of the atmosphere around the game. And if the atmosphere dies, then I feel a big part of the game dies.
Absolutely, and I can vouch for that myself. I remember when I was first getting into football in the sort of early to mid 2000s, and it was magical. As to be honest, it was fantastic, and it felt like everything about the game was better then than it is now. And you think think people had learned, but I think everything's just seemed to have become so stale again. I think it's very
Stale,
gentrified.
corporate.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
And
definitely.
it really gets on my nerves, but it doesn't stop me going because I just love my club too much. You know what I mean?
It's the same with Everton fans. Like, I think if any fans are ready to end it all at this stage, it'd be Everton fans. But somehow we just keep going and keep plodding along. And
Yeah.
I
It's
think that's
hard
the
to turn
thing.
your back on your football club. You know what I mean? It's something that's been with you your whole life. So my dad passed it on to me. I'm going to pass it on to my kids, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's just a hard thing to suck up at times. The sort of state of the game now, where it's just not
Yeah.
the same game that I first fell in love with about 12, 15 years ago.
And for me, I think if you look at the way Germans do football, I think that's they've got it bang on. You know, they make it
Oh, yeah.
affordable to everyone. A match ticket is your train ticket. Cheap beer, good beer, and that's the way to do it. And, you know, you've got packed stadiums with noisy stadiums, and that's what it's all about, really.
Do you feel football? I think it's a good way of looking at it, though. If you look at the politics, if you look at, do you think the football in a certain country sort of reflects the political landscape? Where I think the sort of match going fan in England sort of reflects the state of English society, whereas Germans are it's a very sort of community based, it's a very well run country, whereas the UK is sort of falling apart right now.
Yeah, you thought a bit about like that, but I think you're completely spot on. English football is kind of, I wouldn't say it's in a mess because, you know, you've got Liverpool and Man City, probably the best two teams in Europe at the moment. But I think the state of English football fans is a joke at the moment, and you know, everyone knows about the British government. You know, we've got an election coming up in December, and I don't want
Well,
to vote. I don't want to vote any of them.
well, there we go. We're on happy no Brexit Day the third today. So
Yeah.
it's been it like I say. I think the state of English football fans, like you say, is the match going fans. It's as much of a mess as the country is in general.
Yeah, I agree.
Moving
But
on now.
let's not talk about Brexit because
Yeah,
I'm just bored of that crap.
I'm just gonna get riled. So just move. So what we'll do is we'll move on to the game this weekend. And what can we
Yeah,
expect from Spurs? What kind of lineup? What kind of formation can we expect?
I think we're going to stick with the 4-2-3-1 formation. This season, you've seen Spurs predominantly play a diamond midfield with four at the back and two up front. But last couple of games, we've moved to a 4-2-3-1. That's probably when we were at our best. So Pochettino has recognised that and kind of gone back to the 4-2-3-1. I don't want to see Rose play. I don't want to see Eriksen play. I don't want to see Aurier play. And I don't want to see Vertonghen play. If those four players don't play, we got a good chance of winning the game.
Is that because they don't want to be there?
They just don't give a shit whatsoever. Danny Rose is making costly mistakes every week. Serge Aurier, I think he's actually playing well, Serge Aurier, but he's making just stupid mistakes. He'll give away a stupid. You saw that penalty he gave away against
Oh yeah,
Liverpool.
that was ridiculous.
It was ridiculous, but that penalty he gave away against Liverpool followed like a world-class tackle that he made like a second. Tells you everything. He's actually a good player, but he's just prone to stupid mistakes. Christian Eriksen, I don't ever want to see him in a Spurs shirt ever again. He just puts in zero. I'm telling you, he puts in no effort whatsoever. It's absolutely a disgrace. You know, he's someone that's prided himself on assists and his passing range and stuff like that. He can't find a white shirt at the moment. I don't understand what Pochettino sees in him and why he keeps being played. It just doesn't make any sense to me. If Eriksen and Danny Rose, I'd actually keep Jan Vertonghen and Aurier aside from that. But if those two players, particularly, if they don't play, we've got a very good chance of winning the game. I think Ryan Sessegnon is fit now. Lo Celso's fit now. The only player we've got injury problems with is Hugo Lloris. And I don't know if you saw the Spurs-Liverpool game, but Paulo Gazzaniga had an absolutely sensational game.
I think he's a very good keeper.
Well, it's a difficult one because before the Liverpool game, I wasn't his biggest fan. I thought his distribution is but Liverpool game he was absolutely top notch. So if he can have a repeat of that performance, and if we can play Ben Davis at left back, and Lo Celso in for Eriksen. I think we got a good chance to win the game.
Yeah, well, I think the big issue I find with Spurs, I mean, I hate to say it, but Danny Rose is possibly one of my most hated players.
I love Danny Rose. I used to love him so much, but I can't stand him. I
You
can't look
know,
at him anymore.
I think it just makes me sick the way he says that he's fed up with football. He doesn't want to play football anymore, and yet he's still there playing football.
Yeah, well, would you just turn away at 70 grand a week like that?
Well, exactly, and then that's why I was infuriated about the rumours about Danny Rose coming to Everton if Luca Dean left, which would have been absolutely unbearable. I really, if there's, I talk about Everton fans wanting to connect with players, I'm pretty sure they'd never connect with a player who really pretty much said he didn't want to play football anymore.
I think Danny Rose, I think when he was saying that, I think he was more talking about Tottenham. I think he's fed up of being at Tottenham. I think he's been fed up of being at Tottenham for many years now.
He's been here since 2008, hasn't he?
Yeah, he joined Spurs when he was 16
Wow,
From Leeds United, and his debut he scored that amazing goal against Arsenal.
that's right, yeah.
Um, he
That
hit
was
the
10 years
heights.
ago.
Yeah, but he hit the heights in 15-16 season. He was probably the best left back in Europe. Him and Walker were probably the best fullbacks in Europe at the time. But ever since then, ever since he's spoken to the Sun, ever since he got the hump, it's all been downhill for him.
Yeah, it's isn't. I'll be honest. I've very much gone off Danny Rose in recent years. Like since, like you say, since those comments. I mean, speaking to the Sun in itself for me is a sin.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've not got much respect left for Danny Rose. What do you think will happen on Sunday? Sorry, what do you think will happen? What sort of prediction? What do you think will happen? What
If
score?
if we go with the lineup that I want, and I'll tell you the lineup I want in a second. If we go with this lineup, then I'm very, very confident that we'll get these 3 points because these players are all playing for the shirt at the moment. So I'm going to go. My lineup's going to be in goal, Gazaniga. Right back, I would love to see Juan Foyth there, but I just can't see it. I think it's going to be Serge Aurier. Centre backs, Toby Alderweireld and Davinson Sanchez. Left back, Ben Davis, with a double pivot in the middle of Sissoko and Ndombele, with Son, Lo Celso, and Son, Lo Celso, and Lucas, probably Lucas Moura, and with Kane up top. Lucas Moura or Lamella, depending if Lamella's fit or not. Then with Harry Kane up top. If
Yeah,
we
to
go
be
with
fair,
this lineup for the foreseeable future, I think we can turn this corner, and I think we can get that top four.
I think that's the case of like we've got to figure out what system we need before we even turn a corner. I think you say Pochettino changed this system. I think
Yeah.
if Marco Silva as much as values his job at Everton, he should change his system as well. But he looks too stubborn to do so, and that's why I don't fancy us at all on Sunday. What score are you going to go with?
I mean, last year we came to your place and won 6-2, didn't we? I
Yeah,
don't think it's going to be that much of a landslide victory, but I'm going to go for, I think it's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to go 2-1 Spurs.
I don't think it'll be that tight. Unfortunately, I think we're going to get beat 3-0.
3-0.
Nah,
Wow.
3-1. We'll probably get a goal.
It's interesting. I was going to ask you one question before you go about Andre Gomez.
Oh yeah,
Me and my brother, because he was linked with Spurs and Everton last summer,
that's right. Yeah.
and me a big slash argument. He was very much for signing Andre Gomez, and I thought he wasn't good enough for Spurs. How's he been for you guys this season?
Well, he's had an injury. In fact, our worst run of form so far this season, where we lost 4 on the bounce, was while he was injured. He is a very, very important player to us, but the only thing I have against Andre Gomez is that he doesn't score enough
Hmm.
or even assist enough sometimes. I think he's a great player to have in that pivot role where he's got the composure, he's strong, he holds players off well, and he picks good passes off, but I just think his end product is what is lacking. He's only scored 1 goal since he's come to Everton well over a year ago, which is not really good enough for a midfielder, even a defensive mid, as he sort of plays for us. It's not really good enough, just the 1 goal, and he hasn't got many more assists, I don't think, which is scandalous for a midfielder, really. So he's a very good player. He makes us tick, but when you're looking for someone to provide the moment of magic, he seems to lack that a little bit.
It's interesting you say that because Spurs fans used to say the same thing about Luka Modric. And we all know how that turned out because, he was a player in the middle of the park that didn't get assists really, who didn't score goals really. But, he turned into an absolutely world-class player. So maybe it's worth holding on to him and just biding your time with Andre Gomez.
Oh, it will be. And the fact with Andre Gomez is compared to a lot of the rest of the squad who are widely despised, he's a very well-liked player amongst the fan base, which is going to he's just got a bit more goodwill with the fans where they'll give him more time to get things right.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
So your prediction for Spurs is a 2-1 win, is it?
2-1 Spurs.
I'll go with 3-1.
3-1. Fair enough.
So it's quite close, and we always end this show, and let's be honest, we've been pretty bleak, both of us, on this show. So we're going to end on a light note. What's your favourite film and why?
My favourite film? Oh, Jesus.
That's always a curveball. It catches people out.
My favourite film. I don't know about my favourite film because I've seen so many films, but a film that I've watched quite a few times recently is Four Lions. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't actually.
It's a piss take on like suicide bombers and like British suicide bombers. It's a complete piss take, and it's really funny. You should give it a watch.
That's certainly the most outlandish one that anyone's come up with on these shows so far this season. So
we aim to please.
Absolutely. Well, fair play, and it's been a fantastic conversation with you, Ben. So thanks to Ben Daniels for coming on the show. It's Everton versus Spurs on Sunday. Be sure to check out all the content that's coming your way on both the Toffee Blues in the build-up to the game and afterwards. And, of course, check out WeAreTottenhamTV. The link will be in the description below. Give this video a like and a comment. Subscribe to the channel. You know what to do. And thank you guys for watching on the Toffee Blues. See you later.
Thanks for having me on.